Hi everyone, Leanne here from Jaded Blossom, and I have a fun retirement card to share with you today. Hey, so I'm using Jaded Blossom's Gnome Friends Bear Die, the Build-A-Booth Tiki add-ons, their Build-A-Booth die, their Gnome Dies Tiki add-ons, their Aloha word die, and their Congratulations stamp set. And I did put that one together earlier. There we go. And I did assemble this bear. Oops, I'm just showing you here. I assembled that bear on the assembly videos. You can watch me do that on there. And the same with this little add-on set for the Build-A-Booth add-on, the Build-A-Booth Tiki add-ons. So I'm going to be using those new items. I'm also using Seaside Summer odds and ends, the 6-inch pad and the 12-inch pad, all from Doodlebug. Now, okay, so I went ahead and I assembled that bear, like I said, on the assembly video. And I cut that little hat out of some yellow cardstock from American Crafts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace where the ears are going to go using a pencil, because I'm going to cut a little slit so the ears can look like they're sticking out from the hat. And I'm going to use an X-Acto blade here. It's like a pen blade. And I'm just going to cut along that pencil line. And it's really simple. The ears were originally already on this bear. I just, cut the ears off. There was no screaming involved. I just trimmed them off so I could use them in a different way. So I'm just making sure there's room for these little ears to slip through this hat. And I'm just trimming off anything that doesn't look attractive. There. And then I will set those ears in place. I'm going to use some score tape on the back to hold these ears in place. Once I'm happy with how they look, I'm just making sure that those little slits are large enough. And then I'm just going to, like I said, use that score tape to hold it in place. And I'm just going to dot some glue behind the ears. This is Barely Art glue. There we are. Now I did put that bear together using American Crafts brown cardstock and tan cardstock and pink cardstock for the interior of the ears. There we are. And Ulta News enamel dots in essential black and white for the eyes. But like I said, you can watch me put that together on the Gnome Friends Bear Dies assembly video. Okay, so now on the inside of this A2, so I've got an A2 size card base made out of paper tray ink white cardstock, 4.25 by 11, scored at 5.5 inches. Now I'm adding a 1-inch strip of that paper from that 6-inch pad from Doodlebug called Seaside Summer. It's just kind of got a beach print. And I'm just going to trim off that overhang with a pair of scissors. There we are. And I'm going to add some of these Seaside Summer odds and ends on the inside. You know, I'm going to be using a coconut drink on the outside, so I'm going to put one on the inside, along with this little seagull, because I just thought he looked kind of cute. And adding those with that Barely Art glue as well. And aren't they cute? Oh, just adorable. Now I'm going to stamp some sentiments on the inside. And I'm going to stamp the word congrats. And then I will stamp on your retirement. Those stamp sets from Jaded Blossom, the Happy Hello and the Congratulations and the Thank You ones are great because they've got all these additional sentiments that you can make your own sentiment, and it just is great. You can really personalize your card. So this is going to say congrats on your retirement. So the idea with this is I'm, kind of going for, when you're retired, you are relaxing. You're going somewhere tropical. It's just kind of like a fun little retirement card. So there we are. And I stamped that in VersaFine Claire Nocturne ink using my Misty. Okay, so on the outside, I'm going to add some paper from that same Seaside Summer, but I'm using the 12-inch paper line. And I cut this 1/8 of an inch smaller than an A2 size card front. And I'm just going to add a little bit of glue around the edge just to make sure it sticks down nice and flat. That's that Barely Art glue again. Now I'm working on my Stampin' Up! Pad like I always do. All my die cutting was done with my Anna Griffin Empress machine. So there we are. And oh, you know what? I lied. I actually cut it the exact same size as a card base. So that was 4.25 by 5.5 inches. Sorry, guys. Usually I cut it 1/8 of an inch smaller, but you know, this time I decided to go for the full size. And of course it was a little bit not perfectly cut because, you know, I'm blind these days. And I'm just going to trim off any overhang with a pair of scissors. And there we are. Now I'm going to assemble my super cute booth. So I cut the booth out of American Crafts green cardstock. It's a smooth green cardstock. And now I'm adding on some Nina Desert Storm 80-pound cardstock. And that's for this grassy base. That's that Build-A-Booth Tiki add-ons again. Now I'm going to have this bear kind of peeking out. And I'm trying to decide where everything's going to go. Isn't that cute? Now that Aloha was cut out of Paper Trank white cardstock, and then on the background piece I used Distress Oxide and picked raspberry and abandoned coral just to blend on the back. I didn't film that part. It's really simple. Now I cut out this little green leafy banner out of that same American Crafts green cardstock, and I'm going to add that to the front of my little booth. So he's going to kind of look like he's at a tiki bar, right? And I'm going to weight that down with an acrylic block. Now I'm going to add a little 1/2-inch strip of Nina Desert Storm 80-pound cardstock to the bottom of this. This is going to be my beach that my tiki bar will be sitting on. And there we are. And now I am going to figure out where everything's going to go. So I've got him hanging out. And I want to make sure everything is even on my card. And I don't want his hat hanging over the edge too much because I will trim off a little bit. Now I'm going to add my bear just so it's easy to get this guy added to my card as a unit. So I'm just going to trim off that one little piece a little bit. And no one will know but you and me. I'm going to add a little bit of this ATG tape on the back of his hat, just so his hat is sticking down on the top of that booth. There we are. Okay, and now I've got a piece of this water-looking paper that I'm going to add behind the opening, but I had to get my bear in place first. And I'm going to add that with some score tape. I think this is like 1/8 of an inch score tape or something. I like it because you can just rip it off. It makes it really simple. And it's thin enough to go beside the little side beams on the booth, right? So I'm just going to peel off the backing. And then I'm going to add that water paper behind. And what it does is it kind of cuts down the busyness of that plaid background, and it's just around the edge. And now this water paper is also from the Seaside Summer, and that's the 12-inch paper line as well. I'm just going to trim off that little bit there. And there it is. Isn't that fun? And then it kind of cuts down on the busyness with the bear, right? So now I am going to apply ATG tape to the whole back of this. And then I will stick this down on the front of my card base. So very simple stuff. Getting it kind of in place. There we are. Isn't that cute? And I'm just going to get a little bit of glue on that piece of paper so I can add some glue behind those little, you know, that little leaf banner. Now I'm going to pop up this word Aloha on the top of my booth. Like I said, just Paper Trank white cardstock. And then the base was white cardstock as well, but I did blend some Distress Oxide ink, like I said, and picked raspberry and abandoned coral on the back. And isn't that cute? He's got a little sign there. Now he's going to be holding a really fun little coconut drink with an umbrella. And I'm just going to, you know, pop it up with this scrapbook adhesives foam squares. And they're, like I said, not as dimensional as, like, say, Stampin' Up! Dimensionals, a little bit lower in height. So I'm just going to get this in place using my reverse tweezers. Try not to cover up his little muzzle too much. And then I'm going to add on a couple of little paws holding the drink. And I'll do that with these same dimensionals. I'm going to slip them in behind it a little bit. And then I'll stick my little paws down next with some Bearly Art glue. And he's so cute, right? He's got a little tropical hat on, and now I'm adding on a couple of little paws holding his little drink. Isn't that sweet? Just adorable stuff. Now on the insides, it's congrats on your retirement, so it's super fun. Now I'm pulling out my white Jelly Roll pen from Sakura. That's a number 10. Just added a little highlight there. Now I'm pulling out these. These are Doodlebugs shape sprinkles in Spring Garden. And I'm going to add some of these little enamel flowers to my banner just to bring that color down a little bit. I'm just using colors that are already in my background paper and, you know, adding a little bit of floral fun. And, you know, I try to use my shape sprinkles when I can. I really do accumulate a lot of these things. And, you know, you have to use them. Don't hoard them. And that's me talking. I hoard them. It's like I always feel bad. It's like, oh no, this is my last package. And, you know, is this shape sprinkle worthy? Right? Okay, there we are. So it is super cute. And I'm loving just the color on this. I'm going to add in a few of these little green dots just because it's green and it, you know, won't add to the busyness at all, but it just adds a little something, something, right? So I'm adding a few of them here and there. And I think it just looks super cute. And there is my little bear having a drink. Thank you so much for stopping by. Be sure to hop on over to the Jada Blossom blog, be inspired by the team, the Jada Blossom store to get your hands on these amazing products. And thanks as always for watching my videos. I really appreciate it. Bye, everybody.